Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into a really fascinating piece from the Wall Street Journal's editorial board. It was published on February 9th, 2026, and it's called The Political Battle for AI in Space. And let me tell you, it lays out a super high-stakes race that could change, well, pretty much everything. All right, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with this wild new idea that's at the center of it all. Then we'll get into why anyone would even want to leave Earth for this. We'll look at the government's role, the political fight that's brewing, and then the big one, the race against China and what the US should do next. All right, first up, we're talking about a really radical proposal here, moving our digital brains, our entire AI infrastructure, into orbit. Yeah, I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but believe me, the reasons for doing this are very, very real. So the whole thing really kicks off with this huge announcement that makes you ask a pretty basic question. Why on earth would anyone build a computer in space? I mean, the cost, the complexity, it seems crazy, right? Well, it turns out there's a very practical and pretty urgent reason. Okay, so before we get any further, let's get on the same page about a key term here, an AI data center. This isn't your average server room. No, no. Think of it more like a massive, massive brain for artificial intelligence. We're talking thousands of super powerful computers, all packed together, and they need an absolutely insane amount of energy and cooling just to keep from melting. And Musk's vision for this is, well, it's huge. He's talking about launching 1 million of these solar-powered AI data centers into orbit. For him, this isn't just some cool idea. He thinks it's the only way to really scale up AI. And his logic is simple, right? As he says, it's always sunny in space. Okay, so that brings us to the big why. Why this big rush to get off planet? Well, it all comes down to the problems we're running into right here on the ground. And you can really see the difference here. Trying to build one of these data centers on Earth is just a massive headache. You've got permitting nightmares, you're putting a huge strain on the power grid, and you need incredible amounts of water and energy just for cooling. But in space, the article points out you can avoid all that environmental red tape, you've got constant solar power, and while cooling is still a challenge, it's a solvable technical one. And yet this, we're not talking about some far-off, distant future. Musk predicts that it'll actually be cheaper to build this stuff in space in just 30 to 36 months. I mean, that's like 2.5, 3 years from now. That kind of timeline completely changes the game. But look, you can have the fastest car in the world, but it doesn't mean a thing if you're stuck at a red light. And in this race to space, the US government is holding the stop sign. There are some major regulatory hurdles here that are really slowing things down. Yeah, the main gatekeeper is the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. The best way to think of them is like the traffic cop for all the invisible airwaves around us. You know, everything from your cell phone to satellites. And if you want to launch anything that communicates from space, you've got to get their permission. The problem, according to this article, is they've become a real bottleneck. And just look at this process. It's not fast. A company submits an application, it goes out for public comment, and then it just sits in a queue at the FCC. We're talking sometimes years later before a decision is made. The article really hammers home that this long wait is becoming a huge problem. And this isn't just about some company's business plan. These delays have serious, real-world consequences. The article brings up some powerful examples, like how Starlink has been absolutely crucial for protesters in Iran and for the military in Ukraine. So yeah, there's a direct line between how fast these satellites get approved and major US strategic interests. So as you can probably guess, this whole delay has kicked off a major political fight in Washington. And it's really a classic tug-of-war. Should we move fast, or should we be extra cautious? You've basically got two camps. In one corner, you've got Team Speed Up, folks like FCC Chair Brendan Carr and Senators Ted Cruz and Peter Welch. Their argument is pretty simple. We have to move fast or we're going to lose our lead. But in the other corner, you have Team Be Cautious, with Senator Maria Cantwell as a key voice. They're saying, whoa, hold on, let's be thorough and make sure we don't mess things up. Now, Team Speed Up isn't just talking. They have a plan. It's a bill from Senators Cruz and Welch, and it's pretty straightforward. It would basically put the FCC on a shot clock, give them 1.5 years to say yes or no to a satellite application. And if they don't make a decision in that time, boom, it's automatically approved. It's designed to light a fire under the whole process. But as you'd expect, there's major pushback. Senator Cantwell has two big problems with this bill. First, the technical concern. She's worried that rushing things means the FCC won't have time to make sure new satellites don't interfere with ones that are already up there. And second, there's a political angle. She basically argues this bill is just designed to help out Elon Musk. Okay, so this whole fight in Washington, it gets a lot more intense when you zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Because this isn't just a US issue. America is not alone in this race. And this right here is really the core argument of the Wall Street Journal piece. The editorial board is basically sounding the alarm, saying that while the US is tied up in knots with politics and red tape, it's hamstringing its own progress and essentially giving a massive head start to China.
The big fear here is pretty clear. All this gridlock in the US could open the door for China to just blow past everyone. While America is busy arguing about the rules of the game, China is already on the field, building the stadium, and running up the score.
So, where does that leave us? What's the final takeaway from all this? Okay, so let's boil it all down. The big takeaway is that a political fight at home is slowing the US down in a critical global race. The main risk, according to the article's author, is pretty stark. These delays could mean ceding leadership in a super important technology to China. And the next big thing to keep an eye on? What happens with that Cruz-Welch bill that's supposed to speed everything up? And all of this leaves us with a really big question, doesn't it? When you're in a race for the future, what's the bigger risk? Is it moving too fast and maybe making some mistakes? Or is it moving too cautiously and getting left in the dust? That's the dilemma at the very heart of this whole debate. And honestly, the answer is going to have huge consequences.